Thank you, Kristen. We're resuming the council meeting at 5:52. Thank you. We had a mover and a seconder. I'll read the motion again, or the recommendation again. That the foregoing minutes of the regular meeting of the Council of the Municipality of Marmor Lake held Tuesday, May 19th, 2026 be approved as presented. And we did have a mover and a seconder. Are there any further comments? All in favor? That's carried. Staff reports. The municipal clerk regarding restricted acts, if it's a lame duck period of council. And the recommendation is the council accept this restricted acts in a municipal election year lame duck report dated June the 2nd, 2026. And further that council directs staff to bring forward a bylaw to delegate authority during the restricted acts being lame duck period for enactment at the next regular meeting of council. Can I have a mover and a seconder? Ron? Second, Eric? Comments or questions on that report? Go ahead, Eric.
Through the chair, maybe if I could get the clerk for public information to just give a brief synopsis of lame duck.
Through the chair to Councillor Dow. I don't want to read from the report, but I also don't want to get the details wrong. So as outlined in there, Section 275 of the Municipal Act prohibits municipal councils from performing certain actions during two separate time periods in the year of an election. If it can be determined with certainty that the new council will include less than 3/4 of the members of the outgoing council. So in our case here in Marmorant Lake, if 4 members of council run again and are elected, we would never experience a restricted acts period. However, there are 2 possibilities. So nomination day is on August 21st. That's everyone's last opportunity to file their nomination papers with me. It has to be done by 2 p.m. that day. And once those candidates have been certified, that's our official list of candidates running in the election. People can file their paperwork between now and then withdraw. So nothing can be determined with certainty until 2 p.m. on August 21st. At that point, if 3 or less of our current members of council were to register their nomination, we would immediately be in a lame duck period, and that would extend through the end of term, which is November 14th. And so there are specific acts laid out, or actions laid out in the act that a council cannot perform if they are in one of those restricted acts or lame duck periods. And those are outlined on page 17 of the agenda package. Would you like me to go into those? Yes? Okay. No? Okay. So again, if 4 of you run for election, are certified candidates, we would not be in lame duck up until election day. But then if 3, less than 4, so 3 or fewer of you were to be elected, then we would be in lame duck from election day through the end of November 14th. And I don't think traditionally in Marmorant Lake we have had council meetings between election day and the new term, so that one's not really a big deal. Council isn't typically having meetings or making decisions at that time, but from August 21st through election day, that's a bigger chunk of time.
Is that okay, Eric?
Helpful?
Excellent, thank you.
Thank you, Kristen. Anything further on that report? All in favor? That's carried. Next is report of the CAO regarding the renovations to the town hall. And the recommendation is that council accept this renovations to the town hall offices report dated June 2nd, 2026. And further that council directs staff to move forward with a scope of work, including soundproofing the wall between the current CAO and CAO deputy clerks and the municipal clerk's offices, installing a doorway into the current file storage space to create an additional office space for the CAO deputy clerk, and also to use allocated funds to make the stage in council chambers a suitable and consolidated storage location for municipal files and documents. And I have a mover and a seconder. Ron, second Mike. Questions or comments? Go ahead, Eric.
Through the chair to staff, my only question about this, I accept the soundproofing and the additional office. I think that makes sense. So the public's aware these are not glamorous offices. That back office doesn't have any windows at all. You're in the back of a dungeon almost. So this is nothing fancy. My question is the file storage that's going to be constructed on the stage. Would that be reversible? Should this space ever be used differently? What is that going to look like?
Jeff, you want to respond to that, please?
Through the chair to Councillor Dow, I believe what we would need to do is create a suitable, secure location. So that would involve installing some form of paddock, gated. At least we have to figure out what we can do to secure the location, given we have this door to our right here, as well as off of the janitor's closet. We'd have to figure out how to seal those and considerations for our curtain here. So given that, I would have to think that we would have to figure out how to make a gated paddock on the stage in order to secure our files. So I think that would be the most cost-effective situation, and that would be reversible if need be.
Thank you. And so we had allocated 25,000 is what got approved. Minus those two other approvals, that leaves 12,000 left for this project. So that's the maximum that could be used. Is that correct?
That is correct. We would use the current allocated funds, and if there was any other once we look into this further, we would come back to council if that was not the case.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Go ahead, Ron.
Yeah, through the chair to Jeff. So to be clear, Jeff, which option here are we taking? Just so we know.
Through the chair to Councillor Derry, the option we would be taking would be the soundproofing between the CAO and the clerk's offices, which is essential to allow both parties to be successful in their daily operations. We'd also be adding the doorway into the current file storage area. It's a cost-effective solution to create more office space for staff. It is certainly not ideal, but it is manageable in the short term and a small expense compared to other options.
So that's the 6,900, or is there more to that for the door?
Apologies, that would be quotes 1 and 2. That would be, yes, that would be quotes 1 and 2, the 5,000 and change, as well as the 6,000 and change to handle those two scopes of work.
Does that, when you say soundproof the wall, is that one wall or two walls? What is it?
Sure. Through chair to Councillor Derry, that's one wall. That's the wall that is right now so hollow, and it's between myself and the clerk. So it would be taking that out, soundproofing that wall, because right now I'm not really sure there's anything in there.
Right.
Maybe even echoing, making it louder. With the idea of soundproofing that wall, making sure that that's done, drywalling, painting, finishing that off. The other part would be installing the door in that back area. And then any balance, as Councillor Dow had asked before, would be the balance not exceeding 25,000 to use whatever funds we can, hopefully under that, with building the storage and the paddock to secure the files.
Thank you.
Anything further? Go ahead, Mike.
I just want to get this clear. So they're just going to take the drywall off one side of the wall. Either side doesn't matter. They're going to put some Roxol Safe and Sound in there. And then they're going to put 2 sheets of drywall back up, mud it, and paint it. Is that correct? That cost us $6,000. That's like $300 worth of material.
Jeff, do you want, go ahead.
Through the chair to Deputy Mayor, we certainly can obtain further quotes to justify our means.
Yeah, like, and the same thing, I'm thinking that's a pretty nice door for $5,000 to frame up a door and put a door in. That's, I do construction, but I guess I'm old and I just, like,
I
it
think,
just boggles my mind that these are the prices to drywall and insulate a wall.
So
$6,000 and $5,000 for a door.
the CAO would like to,
Um,
Mike.
Yeah, does anybody want to chime in here, please?
Sure, if I can add some more illustration, like the price of everything is up, but notwithstanding that the gentleman who gave us the quote, again, very good in terms of having a good reputation locally, which is good. It's not just a door, it's not a freestanding door. I wish I could get these same prices for home. The idea is building up the balance of the wall above the door so that that space is contained and that the door is there and that soundproofing would be enabled in that back. The other one, it's cutting out a wall which is roughly 25 feet, maybe a little bit more. I believe that stuff is in the report, the dimensions there. Soundproofing, putting the drywall and making sure that it's not done as much. These are the prices. We would look to see if we can get something a little bit cheaper, but notwithstanding, council needed something to either be happy with or want to look at.
Okay, Mike?
Yeah,
But-
I'd be happy if you looked at doing it a little. Just amazes me that that's $6,000 to insulate a wall. And 25 feet, I don't think it's 25 feet long, John. Sorry, but is that the length of the wall? Kristen's office is 25 feet deep.
Through you, Chair, I don't have that in front of me. My point was that it's not just a short wall, it's a length of road, length of wall, probably about 20 feet. And it's the idea of removing all of that. I'm not sure how long it's been in place, but either way, it's also anticipating anything else that may have to be put in the wall, plus the soundproofing.
Yeah, but that's also time and materials, they said on top of that.
Yeah.
So I make a friendly amendment to the motion that we get more prices. That's, as far as I'm concerned, those prices are atrocious. I don't know. You want to hire me? I'll come down and do it for half of that.
Anything further? Eric?
Just stuff, what's the plan for timeline on this work to not interrupt the business of the municipality with this work being done in the main offices?
So through your chair to Councilor Dow, excellent question. So two things. One, not to lose the thread of what the deputy had raised was the idea that if there's a desire, the council to look at quotes to come in cheaper, we certainly would like to do that. And in terms of answering specifically what Councilor Dow had said is that I will be, because that work will be happening on my side of the wall, it'll be done with least disturbance. I have to have a procedure in terms of a knee replacement. So when that's happening, I'll be working remotely. And the idea is that would be disturbance would be within that room, within that office. The doorway itself would probably be a day or two of disturbance, and anything on the stage would not be a disturbance to business and business continuity. Notwithstanding any of this stuff going on, we've chosen the options, Jeff and myself, with the idea of being prudent with the how much money we have, trying to come in under budget, and notwithstanding that, be as least disruptive as possible to what's going on in the office.
Thanks, John. Anything further? All in favor? That's carried. Next is Booster Park Road Allowance. Recommendation is that council receive the request for temporary access Booster Park Road for boat launch report dated June 2nd, 2026. And further, that council direct the CAO to develop a road opening bylaw and access agreement with the proponent and their agents to permit temporary access through the unopened road allowance at the end of Booster Park Road in order to construct a cottage on Bowen Island on Crow Lake. And if I may, I'd like to add at no cost to the municipality. Can I get a mover and a seconder for that motion, please? Can I get a mover and a seconder? Go ahead, Eric. Oh, wait a minute, I gotta get a seconder. Is there a seconder?
I'll second it.
Okay, so moved by Eric, seconded by Mike. Discussion, questions, go ahead.
Yeah, so I moved it to get it on the floor here. Through the chair to staff, can we get a breakdown of timeline of what has happened since the presentation by the proponent?
So through your chair to Councillor Dow, in the 2 weeks that we've had this discussion, I've had conversations with legal counsel in terms of looking at what will be the appropriate mechanism, whether it be opening the road allowance or with the idea of a road occupancy permit. We do not have a bylaw that allows that, so this is the best legal way of doing that. I've had discussions with Scott Saunders, who's one of the delegates from Drain Brothers. Also had conversations with the landowner through Scott and by email with Hillary, who I believe is present here today. Also looked at other jurisdictions as the best and most appropriate way of looking at this, and also looking at what are some of the things that we, from a planning perspective and from a road safety perspective, want to look at trying to provide a fair and balanced report to council. At the end of the day, it's a difficult decision for council, but looked at what would be there. The timing in terms of the access agreement that you have is a template based on discussions because of the short time frame from the delegation to now having to produce this report within a matter of days. It's a template, but it would give a sense for council to know what are some of the elements that would be there. But the idea of council is supportive of this, I would come back with more detailed, fleshed out. And I think as the mayor had indicated, those provisions that would say no at no cost to the municipality.
So where did this template come from, and this has been through legal?
Through your chair to Councillor Dow, this has come from legal. This has come from our legal counsel in Port Hope Schmidt Law.
Okay, so we've paid for this already then?
Correct.
Okay. So we had talked about the importance of timeline previously for the proponent of this project. That means this would then have to come back again and potentially be approved at our next meeting. So there's a lot of blanks in here, some of them surrounding compensation and fees. How were we going to get to a point where that's?
So through your chair to Councillor Dow, the idea is that if council is supportive of this, I will work with the legal. We've had those discussions. She just wasn't available at the last part of last week to be able to add more detail. With that, we would provide a draft that would be provided for the next meeting in June, with the idea that there'd be a bylaw, that if council supports this, and an access agreement would be part of that. And the idea that if there are changes that need to be made, that could be done either at staff level or for at least council giving direction that they approve that.
And has there been any discussion with the proponent about this draft so far?
Through chair to Councillor Dow, no, not specifically in terms of any of the details or information there. So it would be, I have had discussions with Scott in terms of what the basis of what some of the discussions were, what are some of the elements of that, and the idea that any cost would be made neutral to the municipality, but not specifically with respect to that draft before council.
So there hasn't been a detailed discussion, even to kind of see if we're all on the same page to move forward here in terms of what terms look like or what compensation would look like for this. There's not yet even been a discussion surrounding that.
Through your chair to Councillor Dow, there have been discussions in a general way, but not specifically on the piece of paper you have in front of you, because that hasn't been, again, it's a balancing act of what's appropriate to go forward and share with the proponent if council is not supportive of it, or if there's more that needs to be done, trying to cut back on that back and forth, keeping in mind the short time frame that it's here anyways. This is how much I could produce within a week using legal firms, talking to other jurisdictions, in the absence of a transportation services manager who might have been helpful.
Yeah, I understood it's a short time frame here. In talking to residents and looking at some of the precedents that are done in other areas, just to make council and staff and the rest of the public aware, other lakes that have islands that are often built on often will put a very strict timeline surrounding the build so that any movement of material or building that happens isn't interrupting peak summer season at all. So it's done after Thanksgiving, all the materials are moved or the build happens, which I know there's no dates in this, what this contract is, and that's stuff that we'd have to go back and forth with, but something, if something like this is gonna get a go ahead to address a lot of the concerns that have been brought forward, I think that's something that may be appropriate.
Thank you, Eric. Any other comments, Mike, and then Ron?
And I know this preliminary, John, but I don't see any place in there, unless I missed it, about compensation and if things go wrong, or straight up and up compensation for lost revenue for sites or people not being able to come in. My other it's not a concern, but if we're gonna clean up this whole road allowance, well, my idea would just to be to, once it's done, leave it. They can fix up nicely and we incorporate it into the park. I don't see why. Eric's shaking his head, but he can say what he wants later. That's my idea. I have my ideas, Eric. So, and the other thing I think we should do is, I had a conversation with the CAO. I think we should, along that whole road, move our fence back a little bit and put a curb lane in there of gravel to get these cars off the road permanently, make it safer for everybody, the kids and everything. All it's got to do is, I would think, maybe 8 more feet of roadside through that whole section down there, graveled, for parking. That would get the people on the cars off the road, more room for turning around, things like that. If we left that section in at the bottom that they're going to do, that 100 feet of it or whatever there is, that could be a turnaround, whatever. To me, they're going in, they're going to tear all that stuff out of there, and then they're going to put it back, and we've gained absolutely nothing for the right of tearing that all out and doing it. We've not fixed the parking problem. We've not fixed all the people and all the kids on the road down through there. And I think that's the thing that we have the opportunity. I'm taking some of John's ideas here. Anyways, I think it's an opportunity that we fix that whole area up there to be safer for everybody for the whole summer, not just for the time that these guys are in there. They've got the machinery, they got the gravel, they've got everything. If they want to come to us at this late date, I still go back to the late date. This is the only opportunity they got. And to Eric's point, this should either be, and I know she was pushing before July because the kids are not out of school, which is good, but we're into June already. And the other one is do it after Thanksgiving when there's nobody down there again, which to me is the times to do it. But if it's got to be done otherwise, I want to get something out of it for us and for the people that use the park to make it safer, make it better, more parking, whatever. I don't care. Well, I think we need to get something.
Mike, Ron?
Yeah, mine's the same. I figure that if they could do it later in the year, maybe they can't, but it would be a lot safer that way. But in your report, in the financial impact part of it, John, it said for the security could go against, and it said would that be deposit or for park revenue? If there's a loss in park revenue, could that security go towards that? Is that what you're saying there?
So through your chair to Councilor Darragh, the idea is that a deposit is typically used for, we don't have a bylaw or in our user fee bylaw, but deposit against these type of works. But the intention here would have a deposit against anything with respect to remediation work that would need to be done if for some reason it wasn't done. But compensation would be elsewhere in the clause with respect to any lost revenue based on what the ultimate design would be. Again, I think the intention for the mayor, but also the discussion to date has been that the municipality be kept whole from any extraordinary costs with the development going forward anyway. So the idea of doing that, notwithstanding, I wrote the report with the idea that the delegation had quite an impact by describing a situation there where regardless of whether or not we would be facilitating the development on the island, that there is, it's an unsafe area down there and we need to look at a better design down the road. And whether that's enhancing Booster Park and the footprint or opening up the road allowance or doing something, based on the discussion and the delegation that happened 2 weeks ago. It's important that we don't ignore that and that we act on that. And what that would be is depending on what direction council wants to give me, and then working with their transportation services department to sort of see how can we clean that up, help with parking, if it's trying to facilitate having more traffic in Booster Park. Originally, when we met, this would be about a month ago now, with Mr. Saunders and Roads and Park and Rec and Facilities, we sat and looked at whether or not there was an option to be able to have the development that the deputy mayor has described in Booster Park, but it was too complicated, too many moving parts. The loss of revenue from the transient site was too large, that it just wasn't viable. So we dismissed that. But again, if there's something, as the deputy had said, to make it a win for the municipality for whatever the design is afterwards, we can certainly do that.
So to be clear, you're coming back with more information.
So through you, Chair, I didn't mean to interrupt you, Councillor, but if the idea is if council is supportive of me coming back with options, I will do that. What I need is specific direction, because I could probably parse this 2 or 3 different ways and still be having this discussion when we get into July and August, which is not very fruitful. But again, if council is supportive of having these conversations, I can work with the proponent. And if for some reason it gets cost prohibitive, then I think that they'll sort of say, because this is a through cost. Drain Brothers is not picking this up. This is something that the developer, the homeowner, is going to be having to bear the cost of this. And I think there's got to be a point where she may feel like this is too much, in which case that sort of goes. But I needed it to council to have an idea of what that may look like.
So we're not approving it per se tonight. We're just giving you direction to pursue more information, correct? And you'll be coming back with that information for us to approve or not approve.
So through you, Chair, to Councilor Dare, yes, you don't have a bylaw in front of you. You only have a template of an agreement. I would idea of staff giving staff a direction of what you want me to pursue. I would do that in earnest with the proponent, with the idea that we could work it and then bring that back to council and capture the things that we've been talking about here.
Thank you, John. Go ahead, Eric.
That's where I was kind of going with my question of what discussions have happened in the meantime, because I think it was clear that there has to be some sort of compensation here. They're asking for exclusive use over not only this space, but also temporarily Meg's Landing for putting the barge in and taking the barge out, which they will need to limit public access at that point. So I think it was very clear that that's what we were looking for. I know some of the previous discussions have surrounded that as well when they first approached the municipality for use of this space. So I guess my question is, why are we not here? I don't want to waste any more legal time or staff time to do this for cost and $1,000, right?
So correct. So through you to Councilor Dow, if I misunderstood your question, I have had those conversations in terms of giving you a dollar amount. I do not have that. I have talked about what council's desire is and what that would look like. And I've had that conversation with Scott from Drain Brothers, and he has also had a conversation with the owner, the island owner, and the cottage builder. But in terms of what that looks like, without going too far down the road, I didn't want to either expend, municipal resources if council was not supportive of this in the first place.
Well, I think for me at least, a lot of it depends on that number. There's a lot of risk here. There's a lot of potential lost revenue, and without knowing if we're even in the same window, what does that look like? And that window is going to look different to every person around this table. So where do you start? If you're going to come back to us with this agreement, this draft further developed.
So through you, Chair, to Councilor Dow, the idea is that we would start with the agreement. We would start to put the nuts and bolts, sit down with the proponent and what that would look like. Notwithstanding whether this works or not, there will be another issue that we'll have to look at from a transportation services standpoint, that if Booster Road is as much of an issue as has been laid out by the neighbors and the people who live there, we have to come back to council, whether we haven't budgeted that for this year, but in the future of what that would look like from a community safety or traffic calming perspective. So there's a couple layers there, specifically with this request. The way I position it in the staff report is that this may be the facilitator or the way to be able to enable that other solution to come forward. So the idea is I would have those discussions. If for some reason it gets too expensive, then I would come back to council and say, this is just getting too rich and honestly, this doesn't work. But then that leaves us with the other issue of how do we solve an issue of traffic and traffic calming?
Go ahead, Eric.
Is the fence was recently replaced, and is that not there because the space is so limited to the back of where the transient campsites are that when people are there, they're very close to that fence line and the space is already so limited and that's why it's set up that way?
Go ahead, Jeff.
Through the chair to Councillor Dow, the transient sites and the positioning of the fencing is now its specific position right now to allow the transient sites to be pulled into with a certain size of trailer that we have. They do just fit in as is
Yeah.
to that current fenced in area.
So redevelopment would also have to look at redeveloping what those transient sites look like along the fence line.
That is correct.
And those transient sites along the fence line are some of the larger sites for the bigger trailers. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Which
Thank
is
you.
anyway. So last point here, through the chair to John, just to me, it seems like we need to start at that compensation number. If we're not even on the same page there's no point in further developing the agreement. What does that look like as a first step? To me, at least.
So through your chair to Councillor Dow, absolutely. But actually, I would say the first step was that council was supportive of even doing that and going down the road of having that conversation.
Well, I think we were by giving you direction to come back with more.
And through that, through you, I needed to, given the time frame and what we could put forward legally, my legal counsel was only able to put the template together and I have general discussions. I had that with Drain. I will put some meat on the bones through the idea of what that looks like. And the idea that if it's getting too much, as we add those items, you needed the shopping list in order to know what that total cost would be, including legal, and also the notion if it would be any interference with any transient sites and any compensation there. All the things that council had raised and have all that done for this report to be done in 5 days.
Thank you. Anything further, Mike?
What I think John needs, just in my opinion, is he needs to know that we're in favor of doing this. Well, we just got to hammer out the details. We can't say, oh, no, let's just go hammer out a bunch of details and no, we don't really want to do this. So we got to say, yes, we want to do this. And then we got to say, okay, these are what the details are. And this is what the compensation package is going to be. And as John said, if they come back and they offer us like, you know, you're only going to give you $5,000 for a $20,000 loss, we're going to say, no, we're not. We are in favor of it, but that's not fair and equitable to us. So we aren't going to do it. My other question is, how much space is between the road and the fence? Is there enough room to park cars along there, or do people park right up against the fence already on the road? I don't know. I don't know how much room's there.
Through the chair to Deputy Mayor, I would say that there's enough room to park fairly close to the fence, lined up perpendicular to it, single file spacing. So that would leave 10, 12 feet for between the fencing and the road to allow that parking to take place the way it is.
So there's about 10 or 12 feet of verge or grass or whatever you want to call it, boulevard, between that fence and the road, Jeff?
That is,
Could we take 6 feet of that and gravel it so that people can pull over there and park along there?
closer to 15, 20, sorry, Mike, but you
Like
would-
so you could get a whole line of cars parked up against that fence out over there and get them off the road. But I'm just throwing things out because I don't know how much space is there, but if we can get the cars off the road, that makes the road that much safer and much better all summer long for everybody through there. And if it's just a grass verge right now, I know gravel's not that glamorous, but you know, we could do that. But I think we need to give John the go ahead to negotiate with them or to say, no, let's forget it, and you have to come back in November.
Thanks, Mike. Eric, did you want to?
Oh, just through the chair to Mike, just for clarification, the cars don't park necessarily on the road. They park in the gravel. Sorry, in the grass between the road and where the fence is. There's not really much of a shoulder there, but they're parking in that space between.
Is that, you want to comment on that, Jeff?
I would concur with Counselor Dowell. That is currently where plenty of the people who are not residents of the park or seasonal tenants are parking to access the beach. I would say last year during the summer months, we already were facing many parking concerns with a multitude of people visiting and to utilize the beach. That those places fill up fairly quickly, and that becomes quite the nightmare for our Booster Park manager to keep them from parking out front of the seasonal trailers and that sort of thing, as it stands now. So I guess that would be my only concern is roping off a portion of the road allowance would reduce what parking there is and just create more of a parking nightmare. I do concur with counselors of whether or not we could consider this happening Thanksgiving weekend. What Counselor Dow spoke to as far as after the summer months to avoid those concerns.
Thank you, Jeff. So I think we
Okay, I just want to make it clear.
have one more.
You know, from my understanding, that there was no parking along the side of the road. Well, if we got 15, 20 feet and people are pulling up on the grass, as long as they're parking parallel to the fence, they should be completely off the road. Car's only 8 feet wide. Anything wider than that, you need a special license for. So you got an 8 foot wide car parked off there. He should be totally off the road. So where is all this traffic congestion and all that other than people getting in there to park? I don't understand. I'm confused now. And the other thing is if they're just parking there, they're getting out of the car and they're going to the beach. So how's that interfering with the people in the trailers?
Through the chair to Deputy Mayor, it's the multitude of the cars that are parking along that area that then we've used up all that space right down to the edge of the road and back up to the gate at the park.
Go ahead, Eric.
Well, through the chair to Deputy Mayor Stevens, the issue is all of those cars park there, and then when you add the traffic of large trucks, dump trucks and equipment that then have to navigate down that road while the cars are parked there, that's the number one issue with that space related to this proposal.
I fully understand that. But if they're off the road that far, surely to goodness, a dump truck can navigate the existing road.
Not really that big. They stick out very close to the edge of the road when they're parked there. When you have a full-size pickup truck or large vehicles, they're
only 8 feet wide maximum.
They park towards the fence with their bumpers facing the road. They're not parallel to the road.
They're not parallel. Okay, well that makes a difference. Now your rear end is encroaching on the road. Well, we just have to change the parking. I don't know, but there's got to be a reason, and that is not a good way to park anyways, because as everybody else has said, that just creates more confusion when you get down in there, and there's more not enough people can get in there then. So I don't know. I'll leave it to John to fight it out.
I like this and say that I think the intent of this report is to give John the go-ahead to even negotiate these details, including parking. And I think that we've talked about all of this parking and financing and again, me, the key is at no cost to the municipality. So I think that John has heard what everybody has to say.
Yeah.
And we'll take take that advice when he's negotiating this if we give him the go-ahead to do that. One more comment, Ron?
It's a question or comment. John, is there anywhere in this agreement that includes the comment or the thoughts of the people around the area? I didn't see it in here. Maybe it is. We're missing that part. So there's people that live there, people that the park people. Is there anywhere in here that that's included?
So through your chair to Councillor Derry, the report itself talked about, I went back very carefully, listened to the delegation, also looked at some of the issues, some of the concerns, conversations. It's captured in the report as to whether or not it would be an access agreement. The intention there is that it wouldn't be caught as compensation for people in the trailers, things like that. What it would be is that we would put those measures like traffic signs, signage, barriers, things like that to ensure what has been described as a safety issue, even in this discussion. Whether we even allow, even if council supports or we can't get an agreement with respect to opening up for allowing this development, we now have a very significant traffic issue that for whatever reason, or for however long it's been, needs to be resolved. So all of these things were there in the report. The access agreement would speak specifically to any of the equipment, the hoarding, the timing, compensation. But then we have another larger issue that once that activity was gone, if we can come to an agreement, is how do we come back and look at the site, and how do we make sure that what we have is safer than what we had before? And that would be even included, and Jeff and I have this discussion that we may have to look at when we look at Booster Park, look at how it's set up now and how that may have to be revisited with the idea of solving some of those things. So again, it's not been, if anything, this report has listened very carefully to the comments and the concerns that have been identified by the delegation and others, with the idea that notwithstanding this request from Drain and the proponent, that it still has to be addressed no matter what in order for this to go forward. Can't kind of unring the bell on things that were just presented to council.
Yeah. Yeah, I know I've been up there before and they park sometimes both sides of the road. You just got one lane down the middle. I've seen that lots of times. So we have to be mindful of that.
One more, Eric. and then-
Last one, just a question related to discussions surrounding this agreement. Has there been discussions of where staff that are working on site, where are they parking? Where are they gonna be?
I have not had that discussion. I've just sort of I had Scott lay out what the footprint would be in terms of the equipment's there and how they would do it. I think probably what he had said verbally, if I'm going off of memory, was that anyone who would be there and having to be on site, they would be parking in behind the fence within that confines. The dimensions came from Scott at Drain Brothers as to what they figured in terms of the number of, like, this is not a constant stream of trucks. It's not to say it's not nothing, but it is there. It's somewhere in the neighborhood of anywhere from about 25, 26 to 35 truckloads over the course of building the ramp, then the material for the construction, then the material for the septic, and then pulling that out later on. So again, I can get those details and lay that out, but the intention would be just for a couple staff workers, and the intention would be parking in behind that fence line.
You know, based on your discussions and hopefully he listened to some of the public input that followed. Was there any sense that some of the movement could be consolidated into a shorter time frame so that the material can be moved to narrow that window that they're going to need the space for? Or any activity on the space at least?
Through you, Chair, to Councillor Dow, I wouldn't say that there was enough of discussion to give you a good answer on that. There certainly was not a discussion of the idea of having this happen after Thanksgiving. It was the idea of that the window was there, but notwithstanding that, with the idea of being prudent, I did have a conversation that we can put things better and put a plan together with the idea that optimistically this will all be done before the snow flies. But I think realistically, we need to look at the idea that critical paths can get interrupted for many different reasons, and it may creep into the spring. So any agreement would anticipate that sort of spillover. But again, I'll have that discussion. Didn't have the parameters that we've talked about or the permutations. But if that's the case, it may be a non-starter based on some of the things that council's provided here in terms of feedback, and I'll be able to have that conversation. In fact, the homeowner is here, and we can certainly have that conversation to see where that goes.
So based on this motion, you will come back with this agreement with some of the blanks filled in, or what's the plan prior to voting on the motion here?
So through you, Chair, to Councilor Dow, the very first thing would be the idea of how big is big and what does this look like? And I think I can get some pretty quick feedback from the proponent as to whether or not this is even viable, in which case there'll be no agreement, no bylaw coming back with respect to this particular ask. What would be is a future staff report talking about Booster Park Road and concerns of community safety, children's safety and parking, and how we as municipality can take care of that going forward. Because again, this has been a bit of an enabler of understanding what the bigger issue is there.
Thank you. Okay, I think I'm going to call to a vote. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, John. So next is the fire chief recruitment report. And the recommendation is the council receive this request, Joint Fire Services Board Fire Department report dated June 2nd, 2026. That council approve the updated job description for the fire chief role as presented. And further, that council direct staff to post and recruit to fill the fire chief position in accordance with the municipality's hiring policies and procedures. And I have a mover and a seconder, please. Ron and Eric. Questions or comments? Ron?
A question to the Chair, John. Do you have a time frame, John, when this will be completed? Because I know you're going off. So do you know if this will be done before or after you come back?
So through you, Chair, to Councilor Derry, good question. I'm not going to be here. It's certainly not POTUS, so not going under any general anesthetic, so I'll still be awake. So be available, just not being able to drive here. If council gives approval for this, we will basically finalize the job ad. That'll be posted either tomorrow or Thursday at the latest. The recruiting process posts for 2 or 3 weeks. And then following again, the procedures, what we have is having the selection committee, having that done, looking through and hiring. The idea would hopefully would be to be able to be in a position to be doing the interviewing in either the end of June or beginning of July. And I'm not sure if the chief has some more to add on that, but I think the idea here is that we've spent a lot of time getting to this point. We need to get this position secured, and as it is a department head, it is something that will come back to council for final approval.
So is that personnel committee or is that all of council? All of that.
Okay, anything else? Go ahead, Eric.
In terms of strategy for getting this posting out there into the market, what's the plan there? Is because this is a very specific role, is there any avenues where this is going to get posted to get the most eyes on it?
So through you, chief, through you, chair, it's a promotion. Through your chair to Councilor Dow. We had great success in more recent recruitment we had. So using some of the job boards municipally, I've seen a lot of fire chief, deputy chiefs, fire prevention officers through some of those municipal websites. We had success in terms of that. We'll use those again. And if there's any specific other avenues and periodicals, I'll speak to the chief and other with the idea that we could target that as well. But the intention here is that we would use not just our website, we would proactively go out there and look at those postings. HR Live, which is our consultant, has been helpful in terms of putting the description. This is a redraft of what we had done probably the better part of a year ago. And at the same time, they also know where are some of the places to go.
And follow up, how do we, through the interview process with something so specialized and a panel or group here where we have no experience specifically in this role, how do we make sure we're asking the right questions or making sure that interview process is as diligent and detailed as it needs to be?
Through your chair to Councilor Dow, excellent question. Part of one of the benefits of having these many discussions with other jurisdictions has been that they are willing to help in terms of the development of the competency sets and also the idea of the questions, the questions that will be there in terms of interview, not participating on the interview, but the idea of putting the questions and what to look for. And again, we have an interim fire chief that we can rely on his experience to help in that as well.
Thank you. Anything further? I'm going to call the question, then all in favor. That's carried. Thanks again, John. Committee and board reports, Eastern Ontario Trails Alliance, minutes of April the 9th, 2026. And Economic Development Advisory Committee, minutes of April the 15th, 2026. And the recommendation is that the foregoing minutes and reports of the committees and boards listed are hereby received for information. Can I have a mover and a seconder, please? Eric, and second, Ron. Any comments or questions on those minutes? Go ahead, Eric.
Just a quick thank you. One of the projects that the Economic Development Advisory Committee is working on is a business survey with many local businesses. So I'd just like to thank the members for all their work and taking the time to engage with several businesses. And thank you to the businesses that did take the time to participate in providing information.
Thanks, Eric. Anything further? All in favor? That's carried. Next, Marmor Agricultural Society event permit application for a food festival. And the recommendation is that council approve the event permit application submitted by the Marmor Agricultural Society for their food festival event to be held at the Marmor Fairgrounds on August 22nd, 2026 from 10:30 a.m. to 7 p.m. And further that the society be required to provide special insurance certificate for 5 million liability to staff, naming the corporation of the municipality of Marmor Lake as the added insured, along with a copy of any permits issued by the AGCO for the event by the first week of August. And I have a mover and a seconder. Eric, second, Ron. Any discussion or questions? Go ahead, Eric.
Just general feedback. The letter that accompanied the application, I appreciate all the work that went into that. That's very well done, and that helps council make great decisions when there's so much information here as well about the event and showing that they've done the due diligence to check off the boxes and be prepared. So great job on that.
Good, thank you. They're a hardworking group, for sure. Anything further? All in, no, you can't, we can't talk with, sorry. You can talk to any of us, before or after. So all in favor? That's carried. Next, we're going to go into announcement. Anybody have any announcements, Eric, or?
Just really quick, like to thank the Parks Department. If you'll notice that around town, you'll see hanging flower baskets that have been put up on some of the poles. They look great, and thanks to Parks for their work there and making downtown, adding some beautification.
Thanks, Eric. Anything further? I just have a couple. Habitat for Humanity, the groundbreaking ceremony is tomorrow. Everyone is welcome. It's at 3:30. I don't know if you're familiar, but on the other side of the Anglican Church, there's a vacant lot, and they're proposing to build 2 units on that lot. So this is the groundbreaking ceremony for that event. And I've been asked to speak, so I'll be going, but anyone's welcome to go. And I'll be attending the ALPHA conference, which is Public Health Conference in Toronto from June the 8th to the 10th. Anything further? Okay, then we'll move into the closed session. The recommendation is that council will proceed into a closed meeting session at, thank you, under the Municipal Act 2001, Section 239(2)B, personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees. D, labor relations or employee negotiations regarding a personnel update. C, a proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality or local board. K, a position plan, procedure, criteria, or instruction to be applied to any negotiations carried on or to be carried on by or on behalf of the municipality or local board, and regarding proposed lease of municipal land. B, personnel matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees. And D, labor relations or employee negotiations. I guess that's it. Um. Okay,
Isn't there one more, Jan? Sorry, Mayor. Read policy enforcement's on the next page. Do we have to read that?
I. Yeah, no, maybe I mixed them up here.
No, you right through, but there's one more point,
Yeah,
and I want to make sure that we,
oh, found it, sorry, yeah. The one is regarding policy enforcement.
right.
I get a mover and a seconder to go into close. Ron and Mike, all in favor? That's carried.